Welcome to the KFA podcast, where our mission is to keep faith alive by kicking ass.
Sweet. Well, man, this is quite the surreal, epic experience and moment for us right now. Man, like we're so brand new at this, and you guys are the first you are the first speaker we've ever paid.
Really?
Yeah. So
Nice.
we kind of skipped a few steps. I
You
feel
didn't
like
pay Pineda?
Well, no, they're getting compensated for sure. No, I'm
Okay.
just saying,
As long
like
as I get
we
compensated
locked you
more.
in first, and we built the event around you. So
Nice.
I'm just saying though, like, man, it's been quite the crazy,
Congrats on
fast
pulling it off, man.
experience for
Doing
us.
these
and
events are
I appreciate that.
crazy, you know,
Yeah.
and they're community first more than anything. Like, it's an investment back into the community. It's advertising, marketing. It's that push pull that we talk about all the time, back into the people, back into the community. And you just want everyone in that room, when they think about what you guys do, they think you. Right. And they're going to say, oh, where was that last time I had an emotional moment? Oh, it was at that event. Oh, it was. And that's how it works. Like, it's why we do events all the time. And you're always like, is it worth it? Should I do it? Should I spend this money? How much is it going to cost? Oh my God. But what you're trying to do is create, authentic emotional moments. It's like Disney World, it's, Universal Studio. People go and they spend all that money and they stand in line because it's always a core memory. Unless you go every single day, for the most part, people don't actually forget that time they went and had that smile, and they felt that joy. And so I think if you can pull off joy today, sprinkled with a little learning on top of it, like that's the sauce, then you've crushed it, and people will remember that and they'll pay you back.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of those things that's really hard to quantify, like the return on investment. Cause it when you're cutting that initial, those checks and the like you're saying, it can get real expensive, and it's not like buying Zillow leads or something that you can kind of start to estimate and calculate.
Well, I don't know who's going to buy Zillow leads anymore. The world is changing for
Totally.
real estate agents. So I think that's a totally different conversation. But I think that, the way we look at events too is, you have a annual marketing budget, let's say, and your events are a part of that budget, right? You're assigning some sort of ROI to that marketing, sure, which typically is on like that, that y-axis of watching your revenue and your market share grow. Sometimes market share grows before revenue grows because it's expensive to grow the market share. Sometimes you're growing revenue and you're not yet growing market share, but you're just doubling down on the market that you're in, which might be what you're doing here today.
Totally.
But I think if you're at a better place in a year from today than you are today, you might not be able to say, it's because of that event. But I think you can feel pretty comfortable and know that the event was a part of it.
Totally.
And it's brand awareness. That's what we're talking about today, right?
Yeah, and that's been one of the coolest aspects, and that is why we reached out to you initially, because not only because of how strongly we feel about branding being the way of the future agent,
and how much you love me.
Yeah. Well, it also further adds credibility, because every speaker here today that's touching on branding is talking about what we just did in front of their eyes, and so that's been really cool for us to kind of have you guys talk about that story and the importance, and then they can see that, like, what does Ed Milet say? Best lessons are caught, not taught. And so with the event thing, that obviously is a huge, scary step that, for us took a lot of courage to start working into. I will be honest, last year was more scary just the first time than this one, even though it's a big jump. But in your life right now, is there anything that you're still like scared of, and also that you want to achieve, you want to have happen before you leave this earth, that you are scared or you haven't, been necessarily super keen on going after yet?
I mean, I think there's a small chance that I could get hit by a bus every single day.
Sure.
Like, I live in New York City. I look at my phone while I cross the road like an idiot. Like, there's like a small chance, that could happen. Knock on wood. I'm always pushing myself to be 50% afraid and 50% excited. I never want to be 100% bored or 50% bored. I never want to be 70% complacent. I don't want to be comfortable, because you're never actually going to be comfortable, right? You're going to be comfortable today. And I think the mistake a lot of people make, that I've seen and I made too, is you end up making decisions for the now instead of the later, right? You end up giving up what you want most for what you want right now.
Yeah.
Right? It's like it's like diets, you know, it's like you want to be skinnier, you want to be healthier, you don't want to die early from diabetes, but Oreos are fucking good, you know, like you really like McDonald's, and it's for the right now. And people do that with their whole lives. They do that with the spouse they choose. They do that with the job they choose. They do that with the career and the way that they operate their life every day, because it's actually easier to do in action. You know, it's easier to just do what you're used to and to be comfortable. So I try to push myself to be 50% afraid and 50% excited every day. And, you know, when I'll talk about this later, but like, you know, when I started, I was like hand model / realtor, you know, and now I try to operate far more like a CEO. You know, I run businesses. I now have people that depend on me. I have payroll now. No one that works for me has a name. I don't know anything about them. I just know them as $70,000 plus benefits, you know, and I'm like, how are you? How was your Sunday? 70,000 plus benefits, right? Plus Metro card, or whatever. You know, I just try to make sure that whatever we're doing is making a difference. Because if we're not making a difference, then what's the point?
Right. So what are you scared of now?
Oh, that was your question. Yeah. I'm scared, dude. I'm scared like a little bit every day. Like we're opening new markets on the brokerage side. Like I've never done that before, you know, and it's
what markets?
Like we just opened Orlando. I'd been to Orlando once in my life. You know, we're opening, you know, Georgia, starting in Savannah and then working our way down. That's new for us. And then I'll start moving west, like the Oregon Trail. And, you know, we, you know, just launched, we took our education business that we had. That's great. Like status quo, super comfortable for 5 years, sell it like Serhant based on the book and the TV show. And it was like, you know what, let's push this a little bit further. Let's go sellit.com, drop the Serhant. Let's go sellit.com. And let's start pushing to businesses. Like,
so that was your attempt to go a little bit wider and not just...
Yeah, we had already gone wider, but we had so much real estate content. We had so many, we had people joining like in India who sell surgical centers in Mumbai, you know? And we were like, why are you here? What are you doing here? And they were like, where else do we go? Like, okay, I guess so. Yeah, just because we try to push ourselves to where we want to go. The best piece of advice I ever got before Millionaire Listing ever started was this guy named Richard Rubenstein. Was a big PR guy, like classic. Like if you watch the movie Wall Street and there was a PR guy on that movie, like that would be that guy. And he's like, if you think you're going hard, you're not going hard enough. And he said, you're going to film this thing for a year. They're going to edit it for a year. It's going to come out in 2 years. So anything you put yourself out there doing, make sure you're putting yourself out there as the person you want to be 2 years from today.
That was him talking about
shooting a TV show, shooting Millionaire Listing. And I've never forgotten that. And that's how I shoot those shows. That's how I write books. That's how I do all of our content now. Like we created we have a tech product called Simple for our agents that totally redefines the way that they work and has now become, you know, people now join the company, I think actually more for Simple than they do for me, which is great. That's also really a little bruised to my ego, but it's okay because it's all me. Sure. And they, you know, it's like, it's wild to watch that happen, but it's also nervous and it scares me every day because no one knows me for building tech. Like I start talking about AI and everyone's like, no, just take your pants off and sell an apartment. You know, like that's what we know you for. I think everything makes me a little bit scared all the time. I don't know. But you got to do what's best for you. You know, you got to trust the person in the mirror because even your shadow leaves you when it's dark.
Were you scared when you started the TV show? Because
Millionaire Listing, the first one?
Yeah. And how I know a little bit of the story, you know, of how you were able to land that and get in, but I mean, that would terrify me. I mean, I know you had the experience, or you know, in acting a little bit, but
I had a little bit of experience. I was a bit like shell shocked when they went with me,
right?
Because there's 80,000 realtors in New York City. Like it's a lot on an island, you know, and most of them were better than me at that time. But apparently not all of them were great on camera. And that's a big thing for TV.
Sure.
Like you see all these shows out there now, like you're like, oh, that person's not great at what they do, but they're good on camera. Yeah. And what you're really watching is a TV show, right? So I knew how to do that. And that was pretty terrifying to figure it out. That was a stressful first year. You know, really, like I was so brand new to the business and trying to just wing it and figure it out while also having a camera in my face for a year. Like imagine if there was a camera in your face while you're at work for a year.
I can't. Today's overwhelming.
Yeah, but like you making phone calls and there's a camera in your face,
right.
And they were super strict with us. And they said, listen, we're going to film you for a year and we're going to put you on international television show, either being really great or really bad at what you do. So you get to decide.
Man.
So it was like Real Estate Survivor. It was pretty terrible. The other shows were fine because I pitched those. The new one for Netflix that comes out in a couple months, I was actually more nervous starting the shoot for that. Like you'll watch when it comes out, the first episode is a lot, and a lot happens, and I can see the fear in my own eyes because $1 Million Listing I wasn't by myself. There's other guys, like the producer, like it was a format.
Yeah.
Right. Like this, we're sitting here together. It's us together. Like we're kind of a format here. You could just like let me talk and I'll talk for an hour. You don't have to ask me any questions.
This is easy.
Yeah. But the new one was like a shotgun to the face where they were like, all right, we're gonna go with you. We're gonna give you this show. And it's gonna be about you and about your business only and the agents that work with you. And you're gonna produce it and be one of the producers. And if you mess it up, everyone will know.
It's so like putting wagering your brand
and it's so
on the
expensive
table.
to make. You talk, today's expensive.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like
There's
making those
levels
shows, dude. Making those shows is it's like $100,000 a day. For like reality, which is nuts. So, and it's a process, and you don't want to screw it up. You don't want to make mistakes. You don't want to mess it up, and you always feel like you have one shot.
Yeah.
And I've always tried to operate my life like every day is day one. Every day is page one. I have a group chat with a bunch of guys that are all kind of CEOs and founders of different companies, most of which are way cooler than me. But it's called page one. Like, you can name it. Yeah, it's like a photo of a book. And it's called page one because they all operate like every day. Like if today was page one of this chapter, like how would you operate it? Like what would the first paragraph be? And how do you think about it that way? Otherwise, you're just a continuation of the past couple pages, and that's a boring chapter.
Right. Man, that's incredible. So with the show, I wouldn't say this show is your new show as much as that first one, but everybody talks about imposter syndrome. Did you suffer from some of that? Feel like you were having to fake it till you make it?
Yeah, I never faked it till I made it. Because I wasn't as good of a liar as most people.
Yeah.
Like in New York with like my competitors in the agent business, I learned real fast what lying meant.
Right.
Like these people would tell me something was blue as I was looking at it and it was red, but they were so convincing that I was like, maybe I'm colorblind. You're right. I might be wrong. That poster is not red. It's actually blue. That's so great. And they're just wild liars. And so that always made me uncomfortable. But what I figured out how to do, which was like my second book, Big Money Energy, which was, I saw all these people with incredible confidence. And that's what I wanted. It's like, how do I fix imposter syndrome? Right? I want to be able to be confident. So why are these people confident in front of me? They've just been doing it for a long time. So they have experience share, or they have a book of knowledge that maybe they got really, really quickly or they got over a long period of time.
Sure.
Right? And so then they can just always rely on what they know. And so I said, okay, well, I can't just fast forward 10 years of my life. That doesn't work. But maybe I can just go and memorize information, like do what I did when I was an actor. So I'm just going to memorize everything I possibly can. I'll learn the city. I'll learn the streets. I'll actually go and do the work, like Karate Kid style. Just sit there and try to catch flies and just do it over and over and over so that when you're finally in the room, you're super confident, and start reading the news and start being aware of current national and international events so that you can have a legitimate conversation. And that was super, super helpful for me. Just help me start acting like myself 2 years in the future, like that guy said.
Yeah, I feel like that, at least in the real estate community, that's so overlooked. Like, I don't know a lot of people that actually study the roads. I don't even know if I did. I started at 18 in real estate.
Yeah.
And I mean, I just feel like that's
the
incredibly
truth,
rare and a lot of work, but
the truth of it all, I think for anyone that feels like they have imposter syndrome in any situation is that no one knows what they're doing, but some do it anyway. Right. And so like that, I mean, that's all of us, no one really knows. You're figuring it out, and you can do things by repetition. you can set up the camera, you can like you've done it 1,000 times. It gets a little bit better every single time, but no one really knows what they're doing. But some just say, I'll figure it out. Right. And you try, you say yes. And then as you get more and more experience, you get better at saying no. And like I said, yes. And for 10 years, I'm on my no and era. Like that's the era that I'm on. That's the decade that I'm on now.
Yeah. Well, you deserve it. And you rightfully earned to take that time back and be very decisive.
Yeah.
So. But I totally relate with that. Cause like, dude, a year and a half ago, I'd be terrified of public speaking, and here we are.
Yeah.
It's and being on the other side of that is probably the most incredible feeling. Just realizing that this blossoming of who you never even thought you were.
Yeah. As long as you go to the bathroom before you get on stage, you're good.
Sure. Yeah. Is there a moment in your life that was like that? Like a huge thing that you overcome, or you stared it in the face and you moved through it anyways?
I don't know. I think starting our own company, and getting hit by COVID at the same exact time was like something I thought about doing for a long time, was starting Serhant. I didn't know I was going to call it Serhant. I thought I'd give it like a real name and not have to name it after me. But I started thinking about doing that in like 2017, seriously in 2018, and then 19. It's like, okay, so I lived my life, 1 year at a time, right? Those are going back to like the book, right? Every year is a chapter. Okay. So, the decades are like the sections of the book. So 2010 to 2020, it was Ryan Serhant, celebrity real estate agent, TV show, became #1 in New York in 2017. And, like, that's what I'm known for, right? Reality TV, real estate agent. That's what I'm known for. Okay. So that's one chapter. That's one section. Okay. So what's the next section going to be? I have to grow. I have to expand. That's why I've always said that. Expansion always and always. Yeah. And so I have to build. And so 2020, that's when I'm going to do it. And we set those plans in motion in 2019. And then people started getting sick in China. And then everything got fucked up for a second. But honestly, dude, everything happens for a reason, man. Like thinking back now to how much work it took to set up the businesses, those entities, like come up with everything we needed to come up with to be able to open and launch, in September of 2020, I don't know how we ever would have done it had I had to go to work every day. Like, had I still had to run around, it would have been impossible. Like, cause we just worked all day, every day in COVID New York City, which was totally shut down. Everyone was gone. I walked down the middle of Broadway every day. There was just cops everywhere. It was insane. It was a good, dude, those are the good old days. That's the best. Yeah. I mean, bad for people that died, but like for everybody else, it was just like nice and quiet.
Yeah. Well, yeah, no, that's a really good point. So the slowdown was almost necessary, or you didn't realize it was necessary. When am I ever going to get the
spring market back? Like, when is like the whole world is going to pause so that we can go start something, you know?
And then interest rates are going to hit next to nothing.
Yeah, it was great. It was a great time. And then the market obviously kickstarted and kind of really, really helped us that way. But every deal we had died in 2020. So before we, as we were starting the business.
Well, because your escrows are pretty lengthy, I can imagine.
Yeah, they're like 60 to 90 days for the most part. Some are even longer with new construction. But people were litigating to get out of every deal possible. I mean, the New York Times even said, like, New York City's dead. Get out, right? It's over. And so, like, it was a lot at the time. And so starting that and getting that off the ground and launching it and not going bankrupt and getting a little bit better every single year now that was a lot.
Amazing. Well, sir, I think our time is probably up here.
Oh, okay.
Unless you want to keep going. I don't know how much time we got.
Dude, you're the boss, applesauce.
No, man, I just got to be running around. Let's end with this. So you're going to be on stage, clearly spitting some game about branding. I can imagine a lot that's in your book, a lot of those elements, maybe expanding on some of them. This is going to be played, and I'm sure a lot of people here today are going to watch it afterwards. What's maybe one thing that you get to talk about today, but you'd like to maybe expand on a little bit more?
Oof. What's something I get to talk about today that I'd expand on a little bit more? I maybe kind of like what I just said to you, that I've been thinking about a lot, how no one knows what they're doing, but some people do it anyway. Like, especially when it comes to brand, right? You either have a brand or, you have a brand that you don't know about. That's really how it works. Like everyone has a brand, and it's your reputation more than anything, and you figure it out by asking people how to describe you without using your name,
right?
And just see what they say. And unfortunately, it oftentimes just is superficial. They just describe how you look and like, are you funny? Are you not? Are you serious? Or he likes sports. Like it's super boring.
Right.
And so then you say, well, there's so much more to me. That's so unfair. Why would you describe me that way? It's like, well, because you've never actually given that person the ammunition to use to define you that way. Wow. So what do you want to be known as? How do you want to be known? Like what makes you tick? And how do you tell the world that? And everyone then gets introspective and they're like, oh, no, there's nothing special about me. But you're the most special person you're ever going to know. Like it's only ever going to be you as far as we're all aware. Right.
Do you think I was just going to say, do you think people struggle a little bit too much with just being vulnerable and true about, because to us, like what's worked for us is being very vulnerable.
Yeah, listen, I think vulnerability is attractive. I think it's what people want to watch. I think it's why so much content these days is super raw, right? It's people being very raw about how they look, what they look like. The more polished content is today, the worse it actually does. No one wants to be pushed anymore. Everyone wants to be pulled in. So how do you pull people into that message? How do you be more vulnerable? It was wild actually to watch. Like we did $1 Million Listing for 10 years. And then I started, and then I started the company, but like, the first 5 seasons, all anyone cared about was winning. Like the audience, that's all they cared. And you could watch ratings.
Yeah.
Like, and you could see when people tune in, tune out, and all that. If we were doing a deal and we were winning and making money, and it was like those moments, let's go. More people were tuning in. They liked it.
Wolf of Wall Street stuff there.
But then something changed in the world. The world changed. The last couple seasons of the show, when we were winning, people turned it off. And they're like, I don't want to see people win anymore. And Bravo, the network, actually started giving us more notes like, we want to see you struggle more. That's what people want now. They don't want to see people win anymore. People want to see you struggle. They want to see you lose. And so those last couple seasons of the show were like getting deals and then losing them. And it was like commissions lost, on screen. And they're like, oh yeah, that's good. Give us the pain. Give us the fear.
Yeah.
Which is just so wild, right? It's wild. And so I don't know. We'll see with the new show how people react to it. It's a mixture of both.
Excited. Do you have a date for when
sometime
it drops?
in the next couple months?
Okay.
Yeah, it's not up to me.
We'll look out
There's
for
bigger powers that be over there.
We will make sure that our 42 listeners here tune in
Let's
for your
go,
show.
42. By the time this is done, you'll have 43.
Oh man, I appreciate it. Well, thank you for sitting down to do this, and I think it's getting close to time.
Let's do
for
it.
you to take that stage.
Thanks, guys.
Rock Clark County.
Welcome to the KFA podcast, where our mission is to keep faith alive by kicking ass.